I think a couple days now I got into like a back and forth with a bunch of WWE marks, and this video is for myself and for other people who probably want to see the difference between the booking of a women's promotion in Japan compared to a promotion like WWE, who can't even book champions, let alone can't even book their shows right. And I don't know why people think that just because Triple H took charge, he's gonna do better. Like, I I don't watch WWE no more. I stopped watching the main roster back in 2017 after they put Jinder Mahal as champion. I stopped watching NXT pretty much last year after they made it 2.0. So I'm fully out of WWE. So I catch up with it through YouTube and through podcasters. So every time I hear some of these podcasters, they always try to tell you that NXT got the best women's wrestling on the planet. But I'm pretty much gonna show you that their whole company is a shit company, right? So let's see WWE booking and see their champions. So the WWE Championship. Let's see the reigns. Has nobody in the last 5 years has held the belt for more than a year. All they did was hot potato this belt. This is all the way to 2013. The only person that had the belt for almost 2 years was your boy CM Punk with 444 days. So this tells you about the backstage politics and not about actually what the fans want. Now, there are stories behind this, but if you look at the reigns of certain people, you will see that their reigns wasn't all fun at all. Kofi Kingston reign was basically them trying to get black people to watch WWE. Jinder Mahal was trying to get Indian people to watch WWE. The Miz was a transitional champion with 8 days. Bobby Lashley was a champion to get Big E to get the belt. Brock Lesnar, who was a part-timer, held the belt 2 times in a row. So WWE Championship does not have the prestige that these idiots are telling you it has. So let's look at their women's champion. Where's it at? Here we go. So, not one, but Asuka has held the belt. Oh, this is a joke as well. There ain't no legitimate female wrestlers in WWE that held the belt that had pure competition. Charlotte Flair is on this list more than one time. Rhea Ripley reign was trash. Asuka's reign was trash. Sasha Banks didn't have the belt. Asuka again. So Becky Lynch held the belt for almost 400 days. And that's not saying much because Becky Lynch ain't really that good in the ring. And like I said before, I don't know what was going on in 2019 to 2020. Oh, she vacated it because she got pregnant. If you look at the women, all it was Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks. They didn't have anybody new that won the belt that was pretty much not some politic or not some bullshit. Now let's see the SmackDown Women's Champion. No. The SmackDown Women's Champion. Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Naomi, Natalya, Charlotte Flair, and the longest was Bayley with 380 days because they was in the pandemic era. There isn't anybody new in here that didn't hold the belt that showed that they had improvement. Liv Morgan is a pretty much one of the worst champions. Charlotte Flair politicked herself in the main event. Becky Lynch is married and the baby mom of Seth Rollins. Bianca Belair is a diversity. Sasha Banks pretty much never got to reign a lot, and that was in 2020. And you see Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. And you saw Naomi in 2017, and it was only 9 days. They gave her feel-good moment and they took the belt from her and then gave it to Alexa Bliss. The belts don't mean shit in WWE. The Universal Champion. You have two part-timers. You have multiple part-timers. And you have Roman Reigns right now having this belt. Now let's see the tag team champions. What is it? Tag team. So let me show you. They got too many championships. Their champions are jokes. And I'm supposed to believe that WWE is the best company in the world. Based off what? Because they've been here longer? So, something happened on Monday Night Raw. where oh man, this is the roster that WWE has. This is the roster that WWE has. Now, some of these people are not professional wrestlers and they should have separated them. But I can point to every female on the roster and every male on the roster. And you can ask anybody, have they been built up in the last 5 years? There is no personal investment when it comes down to WWE. It's not. Not anymore. It's been that way. Why would I watch a pro wrestling show when my investments always get thrown in the trash? I invested into Bayley and Sasha Banks. And when they went on the main roster, it was just, they were shitting on. I invested into Bianca Belair. Didn't like her, but I liked her skill. And she turned into just another politic person. I seen Becky Lynch in NXT as the muscle for Sasha Banks. How is it that Charlotte Flair been in the WWE for so long and she can't even perform one move off the top rope? The only people on this roster that are the best on this roster are indie guys and guys that came from Japan. You think that I'm lying? AJ Styles from Japan. What's his name? Tozawa, Japan. Apollo Crews, Japan. Davenport, Japan. And I'm talking about the best wrestlers on this roster. Dakota Kai from Japan, Indies. Finn Balor, Japan. Io Shirai, Japan. Kevin Owens, Indies. But he wrestled in Japan, I think. Nikki Ash, she came from Japan, the Indies. Doudrop, Meiko Satomura, Japan. Suri from Japan. Roderick Strong from Japan. Like, Shayna Baszler from Japan. So, their best wrestlers all came from the so-called smart world. I can't point to anybody that WWE created that is even watchable and tolerable. This is what happens when you don't have a balance of story and wrestlers that's for the casuals and wrestlers that's for the hardcore. So, wrestling podcasters always act like that a wrestler is somehow handicapped because that wrestler doesn't have experience. So WWE has so many trainers and they have a performance center and they can't even crank out good wrestlers. While a company that I'm going to use against them don't have a performance center and they learn in ring. So Aaliyah, one of the worst wrestlers on the WWE roster, is 9 years in the business. She been in developmental ever since 2015 to 2020, and she's still not good. Alexa Bliss, been in the business for 8 years, and she's not good. Trained by Bill DeMont and Sarah, whatever her name is. She is sloppy, and the only thing she good at is the mic. Charlotte Flair, 9 years, the daughter of Ric Flair, and she can't wrestle that good. Where is she? 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 M. Mandy Rose. 6 years. Trained by Lita, Booker T, Billy Gunn, and another female. This is a $1 billion company who can't mass produce people who could at least do the bare minimum in the ring. But you have a company that's 11 years old who has better shows, better trainers, and they don't have a performance center. Now let's look at how you really book a bunch of people on a roster. So Stardom has a championship, a 3-woman championship for a 3-person team, because it's important in Stardom to not waste all of their best feuds and all of their best singles matches. They prioritize team matches to give their wrestlers breaks, and also make sure that their singles, their wrestler doesn't eat pins. Because once a wrestler gets pinned too much and beaten too much, that person is no longer important. They are down a card. So if you get beaten in a team match, you don't get the loss, the team get the loss. So the Artist's title belt was created in 2013, and it had multiple teams. I can go based off what I know and what I saw on Stardom World. Some of these teams was makeshift teams. As you see the names, some of these names could look familiar. As I said before, the WWE's roster is filled with people from Japan. Evie is Dakota Kai. Io Shirai, Mayu, and Kairi Sane they was champions together. Odo Tai, the late Hana Kimura, her mom and Kagetsu, which I saw that match. They beat the 3 top stars of Stardom at the time. It told a story that Odotai was unpredictable. Hannah's mom was a legend in Joshi world. She was a hardcore person, and she has a win over your girl Asuka. There's a match that, if you actually pay attention to wrestling and want to know your wrestling history, Hannah's mom busted open Asuka and was beating the living crap out of her. As I said before, WWE always get wrestlers who are at the tail end of their career and ready to retire. You don't get them at their best. You get them when they're either done or they want a payday. Oh, let me correct that. You got top Io Shirai, and you didn't capitalize on top Io Shirai. And you had top Kairi Sane, and y'all didn't capitalize on. Y'all put her in some damn tournament against people that she was better than. So I can attest to this. The trios belt, it took a long time for them to find really exceptional teams for them to have long reigns. They didn't just give the belt to 3 people and just say, okay, do it. They made sure these people had good taunts, good chemistry together, and good team coordination and good team execution in the ring. As you see, the best teams I can tell you was Team Jungle, Doudrop, who was Viper at the time. She was in Queen's Quest. Mind you, Queen's Quest was created by Io Shirai. So why is Io Shirai being a follower of people that she's better than? Sure, whatever. You had stars when they was good at the time. Tokyo Cyber Squad when they first came together, but it showed that they wasn't good at working as a team. They just had momentum in the beginning. The best teams that you see is in present day. 2020, the worst year, 2021, and 2022. Dalla del Mondo, which was Shiri, Micah, and Julia. They had the belt for 280 days. Cosmic Angels, which was Tam, Unagi, and Mina. 291 days. You had Mahimi Poi, who had it for 237 days. These are the 3 coordinated teams that work together the most because they're in the same unit. This belt is mainly for people who would never, certain people that would never ever get the top belts will get awarded if they're in the right team. So it makes people feel important and give them a role. And it makes them double champions. The aesthetic of somebody who holds both or 3 titles at once shows that they at the top of the promotion. At one point, there was Io Shirai held 4 belts, and Mayu had 3. And the visual of that made them look like superstars. And that's the reason why your boy Triple H came knocking on the door of Kairi Sane and Io Shirai. And he tried to get Mayu, and Mayu said, nope, I don't want to go there. So, you see that long title reigns could benefit a wrestler and make them not ever be at down in the card. Now let's see Reigns in Stardom. You see somebody who held the belt for 602 days. Alpha Female was a foreigner who was a transitional champion, but that she was a monster. They pushed her as a monster unbeatable. And guess what happened? They had Io Shirai when Io Shirai was ready. And they had Io beat the monster they built up to prove that Io was the top. From that point on, Io became the top person in Stardom. Then, Yoshiko, who was the top person who beat Io, that made her the top until she did something stupid and she shooted on a girl. You could find it online. And they had a real fight in the match. And by the end of the match, the other woman's face was bruised up. And basically she had to get surgery after that. Her face was busted up from Yoshiko beating her up for real in the ring. That changed Stardom to a point where they would never throw closed fists ever again. That's why you see elbow shots. And where they control how they hurt their opponent. And they don't hurt their opponent too bad. You see Kairi as a champion. Meika Satomura was a monster in Stardom. But they made sure that Io was the one that beat her because Io was the right person they chose. After that, Io Shirai had her second reign, and Io Shirai was the most dominant red belt champion next to Nanae. Because that's the way they booked it. They didn't let somebody come in and beat her. It took a long time for anybody to beat Io Shirai. And once they found the person to beat Io Shirai, it was her stablemate. It was somebody who wanted to beat her. It took at least nearly 2 years, almost 2 years, for Mayu to beat Io Shirai. And this is after multiple times trying to beat her. But I'm supposed to believe that WWE is the best wrestling company in the world when they can't even book champions right, let alone female champions right. After that, Mayu got hurt in her reign. So we got a part-time champion. The first one in Stardom. She was a foreigner. Toni Storm has looks. And there was experiment with that. The reason why Toni Storm had this long of a reign because she was never available when it was time for her to face certain opponents. And Rashi was not going to play, the booker at the time is not going to play games with a wrestler. So they made sure they found the perfect person to beat her and be dominant in the company. All the while Toni Storm was holding the title hostage. They was booking Kagetsu, and she was getting better and better on the mic. She was getting better and better in the ring. She was becoming the locker room leader, and everybody wanted Kagetsu in the back, in the crowd, including myself. When I was watching it through the progress, I wanted Kagetsu to take that belt off of Toni Storm and give us back our belt and give us back a champion that's going to be here. This is the first time this happened ever in Stardom history. Kagetsu won that belt. I was so happy. And Kagetsu killed it for nearly a year. B. Priestley, in the beginning, who's Davenport now, she was clunky in the ring. She hurt a couple people. But once she got better, they said, it's time for you to get this belt and be at the top of Stardom. She had the belt for 184 days. But she was back and forth in the independents. So they had to give it to her, the most reliable person in Stardom, Mayu. Mayu had it for 377 days. And guess who they gave it to? A rookie who had the foundations of wrestling in her first year of Stardom. A rookie who had almost every single belt on her waist. A rookie who's been wrestling for 4 years, who's better than anybody, any female that they made in the performance center. She can wrestle circles around them and only been wrestling for 4 years. She's only 23 years old. But y'all make excuses for younger wrestlers in America, while the Japanese wrestlers are killing it in Japan. She got the belt. She held the belt for 409 days. She was dominant. Boring. I admit that. I watched most of her title reigns, and they were boring as hell. But there was one person that she couldn't run through, and that was the ex-MMA UFC star who's now the title holder. Her name is Shiri. She's the female Brock Lesnar. But Jim Cornette, Millennial Smark, and all these other fucking guys who talk shit about Joshi are never going to point to actual wrestlers who are legit tougher than a Asuka, legit tougher than a Bianca Belair, a lot tougher than a Charlotte. They never talk about this booking and how they book their top stars. You know what the match that made people, that elevated Shiri, even though Shiri was in pro wrestling for 12 years, was her matches with Utami. She had a 40-minute match. A 40-minute match with Utami that showed that they were the top of Stardom. Guess what? Everybody on this list, most of the people on this list ain't in Stardom no more. But the ones who are in Stardom, they never debooked them because they're not champions. Being an ex-champion and being at the top means something. That means that whoever beats them, even without the belt, they matter. But they have to beat them at a certain point or a certain time period when they get better in the ring. Or they can give them a good fight. So, Mayu ain't the champion no more, but Mayu is a top star. Anybody who can beat her in singles means that they get a push. Now, let's see Mayu. How many times Mayu lost? Let's see how many times Mayu lost. And who she lost to. Because this is me making a damn point. By opponent. Singles match. Submit. Now, she lost to Momo 3 times. Should I tell you? Momo is a top star. She's a former white belt champion. She beat her in her reign. She lost to her best friend, former best friend who betrayed her, who knows her moves. That's why she lost to her 4 times. Io Shirai, she lost to Io 3 times and only won against Io 2 times. Kangetsu beat her 2 times in no, she lost to Kagetsu 2 times and won against her 4. Hana Kimura, she never lost to Hana because Hana wasn't top. See, this is the thing right here. When you lose to somebody, it means that they're better than you, they beat you, and they know you. That's actual storytelling. That's keeping up with the continuity in a pro wrestler's career and storyline. It means that a wrestler who's a former champion or somebody who used to know you, they know your moves, they know your moveset, and it's only based off how tough you are and how tough they are if you could get a draw. Mayu had a draw with multiple people, and I'll tell you the backstory. Momo, because they were pretty much at the same level. Mind you, Momo started when she was 15 years old. And once she turned 18, they gave her the belt. But 18-year-olds can't be champions in America, right? They're too young. They don't know the foundations, right? She got a draw with Io 2 times, but never truly beat her until 2 times. Kagetsu 1 time. Hana 1 time. Because she didn't know about Hana. What is it? Tam, she had a draw with her. Let me show you a bunch of wrestlers who only have small experience and they're only like 22 or 23. Momo Watanabe. She's only 22. Julia's only 28 and only been wrestling for 4 years. Starlight Kid has been wrestling ever since she was like 12 or 13. She's 21. Azumi is 19 years old. She's been wrestling ever since she was 11 years old. So a 19-year-old could wrestle circles around a whole bunch of older women. But you want to talk about age, right? Hazuki is only 24. The top woman in the promotion is only 23. You got a 15-year-old who wrestles better than Alexa Bliss. So I gave you the thing of how they book. I can break it down and how they booked and all the matches and stuff, but WWE is a joke. Everybody who talks about how long they've been talking about wrestling, they can't give you a. They always go to storylines better than the in-ring. But they never talk about the in-ring storylines. They never talk about the continuity in the ring. They never talk about a champion getting better. Why didn't Hulk Hogan get better? I mean, not Hulk Hogan. Why didn't Austin get better when he versed against Bret Hart? Why didn't he start having certain moves that showed that he battled Bret Hart and he beat him? This is the booking that I'm talking about. WWE relied on for so long. It's bad storytelling to act like you was in a fight with somebody and you never learned from that person and you never actually try to adopt a certain move to add to your arsenal. Meaning that every single match you go into that's hard, you adapt a new move so you can be more versatile. And that's what we was used to. Well, that's what I like right there. Shiri, her storyline, she's a badass. She always using kicks and submissions. She was a former UFC person, but when she got into the company, she saw it told a story that this ain't MMA, and your kicks might not be strong enough. They might be powerful, knocking people out, but they're a lot tougher than you. She added to her arsenal when she versed a young Azumi. Azumi beat her multiple times with roll-ups because Azumi is a faster wrestler than her. And she didn't like the fact that I lost to a smaller wrestler who was smaller than me with roll-ups. She started becoming better at roll-ups and she started becoming better at speed. And it showed in her matches against multiple people after she versed Azumi and she versed Utami multiple times, and you see how fast she got. It wasn't just about power, kicks, and slams. It was all about speed because she learned it from Azumi, and that's how they booked it. But hey, you keep talking about storylines and promos and all this stuff, but you're not talking about how bad the booking is and how bad the booking been for decades. Boxers learn how to fight and adapt to the multiple opponents, and they got faster and stronger. Football teams adapted and stuff. Your favorite player like Michael Jordan and Jerry Rice and all these people learn from who they faced across the field or faced across the ring. But you want to tell me about marks and don't have tell stories? How you guys have? I don't want to say the R word, but are you serious? I'm spoiled now because I actually see people. I actually see a promotion putting continuity in their wrestling, and every single time they go in the ring, they learn something new. Let me tell you a Let me tell you about a wrestler, right? Let me give you one example. Let's see. Where's Unagi? Where you at, Unagi? Here you go. Unagi only been in the business 3 years. I remember when she first came in Stardom. She lost all the time. Let's go to her loss rate and let me tell you how that tells the story. By opponent, by submit. So she won against Shuri, who's a top star. Multiple people. But when she first came to Stardom, as you see her record, she lost 4 times. One time, she lost to just about everybody on the roster. If you look at it, you look at the roster, she lost to almost everybody. But each loss, she learned from her opponents. She learned how to hit harder, endure more pain, until she became better at taking pain, exchanging shots, and all her moves that she wanted to keep in the ring, they became more effective. In the beginning, her drop kicks was so weak. Every move she did was weak, because she didn't know what she was doing. She needed that experience and the matches in order to adapt to her opponents. And once she got used to her opponents, maybe she can't beat them fully, but if they have an off day, she will beat them. Now, Unagi goes around and beat the hell out of rookies, because she knows what it's like to be a rookie. She's a lower card. Well, she's a mid card that used to be a lower card. And it only took 2 years, technically 2-3 years, to move her up the card. And they're not $1 billion company. It's how you book them. I would never took Unagi serious until I saw that she was willing to put herself in a serious way. She is still a comedy person. But when she gets serious, she can get serious. She's not the highest level. But she could beat even the top people because she's been through the triumphs and tribulations in the ring. She went against 7 of the top people in Stardom and got her ass beat. But she learned from that, and then after her ass whipping from the top best, then she started beating people. So I don't like it's weird to me when people talk about Joshi. It's weird to me when you talk about storylines. It's weird to me when you talk about how AEW don't have this and AEW don't have that and this and this and that. I'm like, you're right about some things, but you're wrong about others. AEW do tell in-ring stories. You just don't pay attention because you want everything handed to you. You're lazy as shit because they condition you to just depend on storylines and not the in-ring and not the mix of it. Like, how can you talking about believability? How Shawn Michaels can even give so-called Undertaker a match? Oh wow, what? Because they told a story in the ring that Shawn Michaels has a long list of history of fighting bigger men than him and sometimes beating them, so his hits are stronger and he has more weight to his hits, so he can fight an opponent like Undertaker even though he's smaller, not because he has muscles. Oh, but y'all won't talk about that. Y'all won't talk about the bullshit politicking that goes on in American wrestling. That goes on in other wrestling promotions, but they put a lid on it. The whole video was to show you that other people book their shows better. And just because Triple H is in charge doesn't mean it's better. NXT was booked like shit. I mean, guys talk about how Black and Gold was the best wrestling in the world. Well, no, it wasn't. Because they was booked like shit. They relied too much on four-man tag teams and all that. In Stardom and in other promotions as well, if you lose the belt, you have to get in back of the line. And you have to fight your way back to the top and beat the right people for you to even get another chance. But in WWE, you could just walk in from the street and say, I want a title shot. Why is Karrion Kross in the main event picture? Why is Braun Strowman beating half of your tag team division? Why is you suggesting that Dominic Mysterio, who's a fairly okay looking kid, can't get a better looking woman than Rhea Ripley? And y'all making jokes and saying that she gave him some cheeks and turned him bad. Is that the best story that you can put? Instead of having Dominic versus his father and saying he's tired of being in his shadow. That's the best you can do to turn him against his dad, is suggesting that he clapped the cheeks of Rhea Ripley. Oh, Rhea Ripley seduced him. To me, what it looks like is he's a cuck for her. But WWE is so good under Triple H. Braun Strowman beating up your tag team division. Karrion Kross walking around here with same moves. And I'm supposed to believe Karrion Kross is beating everybody because he's crazy? I mean, hey, whatever you say. Whatever y'all say. I'm not going to watch that trash. I continue to watch guys like JD or, other guys like Sada Monster or somebody else. I watch that from there. I stick to actual wrestling that does story and in ring the right way and keep the continuity.